Yeah. Back at the dance.
That's the dance. That's the dance.
Back to the dance every week. I've been your Tuesday night dance partner for a year or so now.
It's been that long?
Yeah.
It's been over a year. Yeah, it has, hasn't it? Yeah, because we started the UnSKripted Bros we've been to 2 SummerSlams together now, man.
We have.
The Cleveland one was a doozy, man. We nearly 2 a.m.
We used a lot of stuff.
Nearly 2 a.m. and a police officer telling us that there's homeless guys this way, there's a strip club that way, and that way's okay. Good luck. See ya.
I didn't have enough dollar bills for the strip club. Listen, wanted to start off with something not controversial, but something that last year there was no decision other than Raju, the manager of our content here on content manager here on Sportskeeda. We came up with the what was going to be every year, and this will be year 2 of the Bill Apter Legacy Award.
Nice.
And he and I just thought for a minute, we both said at the same time, Undertaker. It's great. Okay. We gave the Undertaker the bill for the very first one, right? So now in November this year, 2024, is going to be the Bill Apter Legacy Award, again presented to some legend.
Okay.
And on the show that I do with Mac Davis and Teddy Long, we were talking about some of the names that might be legendary enough to get this Legacy Award. So I wanted to come out of the chute and ask you, do you have 1 or 2 suggestions that would be the recipients to the Bill Apter Legacy Award? And if you fans want to chime in, you can do that. Tell them about the super chat if they want to get on here with their.
Yeah, absolutely. Guarantees you on the screen if you hit that super chat, man. That button you see on YouTube. And we'll give you some love. What's the criteria for the Bill Apter Legacy Award?
Well, generally, it probably should be someone who's not active in the ring, maybe once in a while, but active in the ring. and is when somebody in a group of people are talking about pro wrestling, this guy's name always comes up when you talk about a legend, and it should be someone alive.
Okay. My pick would be Steve Austin.
Okay, and Teddy mentioned Steve Austin. We also have Bret Hart was mentioned.
Okay.
The Rock was mentioned.
All right.
John Cena was mentioned.
Nice.
So your pick would be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes, Steve Austin. Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to give a criteria for it?
Outside of Hulk Hogan, he is, he revolutionized the state of WWE. If it wasn't for the Austin McMahon feud, there's a high chance that the 83 weeks that the WCW did not lose against the WWE would have been longer. And there's a good chance that it was a gamble, because if you think about it, from the Attitude Era was a bunch of talent that weren't necessarily established. Where the big boys play was over at WCW. The established talent was the Hall, Nash, Hogan, Sting, Flair, Luger. Those were all over. DDP. They were all over at WCW.
Yeah.
WWE was taking a huge chance with, Michaels, who was about 5 years, about a good 5 year, like 92 was when Michael started to, rise up in the Intercontinental title scene as far as a solo talent. He was only about 5 years established as a singles talent. Taker, he was there. He was a legend. Triple H wasn't even, a main event talent yet, as far as a lot of people in DX. So it was a more younger, edgier product. It was at the helm of it was Austin and McMahon. And if it wasn't for that feud, there's a good chance that WWE might not be where it is right now. So
two people that I think you left out. One of them's your favorite, Sting.
I said Sting.
Oh, you did say Sting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. I didn't realize you said. And Triple H is another possible choice. He's still in the business.
Oh, as far as the award winner?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mentioned his name, but yeah, Sting's my all-time favorite, of course, but as far as just a pivotal, as far as someone who's pivotal in the pro wrestling industry, definitely Austin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now you had something before we went on the air. You had something you were chatting to me about, and regarding Odyssey Jones.
Oh yeah, I've been working on. All night I've been working on. I've been receiving a bunch of information. I released a bunch of information on my Twitter account as far as exclusive information, intel that I received this evening from my sources regarding the situation. I was told yesterday that he was let go. Then that was, and then other outlets mentioned it, and those were the ones who. But I was one of the first people who mentioned it. But at the same time, I kept digging. I kept doing my journalistic digging and found some.
You're good at that. You're good.
Thank you.
I dig it.
You dig it, but that's why I landed a spot at Fox Sports and Sports Illustrated, man, because they appreciated my digging, my journalistic digging. So I was blessed to work for.
So what have you dug up that you can tell?
So it's all on Twitter as far as just the situation that was that. Let's just say this: it wasn't just one-sided, and it wasn't really like domestic violence per se. So that's what really it's been talked about. Like he was fired because of domestic violence, but as of my post, there weren't any charges filed for domestic violence. So that wasn't necessarily the reason why he was let go. So there was just a lot of stuff going on with him and his ex, and still pending, and started to get public and blow up. And it's more of a PR move from WWE that they didn't want to, have anything to do with that. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Yep.
and it makes a lot of sense because of all the eyes that are on WWE at this point, and it's just not a comfortable situation, no matter what type of domestic violence it might have been or domestic situation. If WWE is not comfortable with it, then it's best to hold off at this point.
Yep. And he's not an asset. He's not a strong enough asset to the company to try to fight for. You know what I mean?
Not right now. No.
Yeah, you have to think about it. Not you. I mean, this, but people. Yeah. You have to think about it from the situation of, is he a strong enough name to fight for through all of this? And if he was a main event talent or something like that, that would be something that would be another thing. But unfortunately, he just only had a few weeks on the main roster, so that he's unfortunately not that guy that they're willing to fight for. Like, for instance, a few years ago, both Usos, had DUIs, multiple DUIs and things like that.
On a higher platform.
Exactly, but they were a main event tag team, so the WWE was willing to fight for them more. That's just, and again, this, it's just kind of like a pecking order type of, are you playing favorites? Technically you are, but you have to think about it from a standpoint of, business-wise, are you making me money, or are you going to tarnish or potentially tarnish, even for a day or two, the name of WWE? And if I'm not making any money off of you right now, we're just going to have to let this go for the sake of a PR move. We want to protect our brand. So I can't really fault WWE for that. I really can't. It sucks that he doesn't have a job.
Legal costs. Is it worth the legal cost at that point as well? If you're being realistic. So Monday Night Raw, just to change the subject here, Monday Night Raw had Wade Barrett at the broadcast table, along with Joe. How do we pronounce his name?
Tessitore.
I gotta tell you something. From the minute they introduced him in the ring, I saw some Gene Okerlund in him. He's got that Okerlund spunk to him.
That's a good comparison.
He just did so well as a broadcaster. I enjoy. He and Wade Barrett together were excellent. It's like they've done this for years. But I was very, very impressed by his broadcast talent. I hope they'll be keeping him for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't wow me. However, as you know, I'm a huge college football fan. I am a mark. I am a self admitted mark for college football. Absolute mark for college football.
You're the second one I know in this world.
Who's the other one? Who's the other one?
Austin Idol.
Oh, he's a college football mark. You know who else is a college football mark?
I know.
Really?
More than anyone
Kwee Alan Funk.
Okay.
He's a college football mark as well, and he's also an avid Ohio State Buckeyes fan, like I am. Him and I are cool. We have a Ohio State Buckeyes talk. What's that?
I said I'm not a football guy, so
I know you've told me that. I'm sorry to hear that. Man. I would watch football any day of the week.
No, like when we moved to Pennsylvania and people told me they can get me Eagles tickets, I said I saw them in concert like 5 times.
I knew that you were going to say a joke for the Eagles. No,
but it's true.
I know it's
absolutely
true, but I know that I knew that you would say something like that. If someone's like, hey, let's give you some Eagles tickets.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to
That's what Bill Apter would do. Absolutely, yeah.
well, we're talking now about
No, I
Joe.
was talking about Tessitore. I was
Yeah,
responding to
that's
about
all.
Tessitore. So I'm a huge college football fan, and
Yeah.
Tessitore has been doing college football for quite some time now. Great college football commentator, really well.
Oh,
What I saw in this is he has the voice, he has the professionalism, he has the experience. I like it. I
mhm.
wanted more energy from him though. And I
Oh,
also it also made it seem like he's a play-by-play announcer. So what I want from him is the fans, and I talked about this yesterday. The fans don't hear him. He's not there for the fans. He's there for the viewing audience. So you're supposed to give us the type of feel that we're there. We're in it with
yeah.
him.
I felt that.
We're in it with him. I didn't feel it because he didn't even know the moves. I know
Well,
you did.
no,
I'm
I think that
answering
was
your
more
I'm
Wade Barrett.
answering your question, Bill. Let me
No, that
answer
was
your
more of
question.
Wade Barrett.
I know, but you asked me a question, don't let me answer it. Can I answer your
Go
question,
ahead.
Bill? Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
So what I was saying was I didn't have that type of feel with Tessitore. Not saying that I'm pulling for him though because I like him. I like him as an announcer. I think that he's a really good announcer overall. From a play-by-play wrestling perspective, it wasn't as like the thing is with college football, there's moments of pause because you're waiting for downs, like on second down, may not be the same intensity as fourth down and things like that. But with wrestling, it's a different animal. Like you just always have to be intense. And if you're a play-by-play person, you have to know the actual moves. And so one of the things that, one of the gaps that he made was when Ilya Dragunov was doing his finisher, he basically just said, hey, Dragunov with the shoulder. And that was the actual torpedo. And Barrett had to basically compensate for that. And you have to make finishers like, boom, you have to lift up the interest of the
This was
finisher
his week.
move.
This was
And
week one.
he wasn't the type of he didn't do that. He didn't do that a lot of times. And I think that he can get some time to build. It's only his first week, but I think my biggest critique is I want him to get more energy, and I want him to do a crash course of one, watching Jim Ross tapes, and two, actually knowing the finishing moves of every wrestler
Well,
because you can tell that
they
he's not
usually have
interested.
somebody in the back in the gorilla position calling a move or something if you don't know what it is. I think this was a great tryout for him. When he got in the ring, when Wade Barrett introduced him, his energy was magnificent. He reminded me of Gene Okerlund. I saw it totally different than you did. I was watching it as a fan. I wasn't listening to him as a perfect play-by-play guy. He and Barrett exchanged a lot. Wade Barrett was also calling holds. I thought they did really well the first time. So I saw it quite a bit differently than you did. I thought he was great,
That's
and
fine.
I'm looking forward to. But when he got into that ring with Wade Barrett, he was glowing. He had that, ladies and gentlemen, we're only going to get better. He just had that whole broadcast. He glowed in there as far as I was concerned. And during the matches, I could hear both of them going back and forth. A lot of times with broadcast teams, you can't hear both guys. AEW is notorious for that. I thought he did really well. So that's
Wonderful.
we're all entitled to
Yeah,
our unscripted opinions.
absolutely.
So now
Absolutely.
I'm gonna come up with something else where you'll probably disagree with me again.
Let's see.
We agree to disagree. And I brought this up
I don't
also
know.
on
Maybe we disagree to disagree.
Yeah, I brought this up on Time Machine. Um, the fans that say it's not pro wrestling anymore. Did you watch Bash Berlin?
I did.
Did you watch the pay per view? There were two matches on that card, in my opinion, could be candidates for match of the year. The opening match, Cody Rhodes and KO, Kevin Owens, went almost 40 minutes of pro wrestling. There's not a lot of shtick in that. Then Gunther against Randy Orton, the same thing. And what I want to say is that Gunther has, the old school champions generally, like in the NWA, were classy type of champions. Gunther has brought a very classy air to the WWE World Championship. The way he carries himself, the European style that he works. They had a wrestling match, and so did Cody and KO. I was pretty blown away by that, and also that the card was only 3 hours. It wasn't that, oh man, when is this thing going to end already? So what do you got from that night? And Punk's match against Drew McIntyre wasn't too bad either.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, it felt like a house show. I mean, it felt like a lot of these foreign or international pay-per-views or PLEs. They feel like glorified house shows, and that's what it felt like. I mean,
How do you mean that? How do you mean glorified house show?
It just meant like, I mean, a house show loop is usually the baby's going over, or the champion's going over, or it just felt like it was really catered to the crowd. You had like a super show for that was focused for the crowd, and it was that's what it felt. I mean, it felt like it wasn't. I mean, it didn't really. I mean, it was just like another.
You still there?
What's that? Yeah, you're going out.
No, I lost you.
Yeah, no, you feel grainy. You look grainy. Okay, now you're better.
You did too. You look very grainy. Now you're not grainy. It's Dr. Chris Grainy, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, go ahead.
Nope. All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, it just felt just like a house show. It didn't really. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was a solid show, but
it was wrestling.
Just like it was. I mean, yeah. It just felt like another show to me, man. It doesn't. I couldn't care less about a good wrestling show if there's no really good story arcs, man. I don't really care. Doesn't really do much for me, man. It's just felt like a house show. If I went to a house show in Berlin,
a decent story with Cody and KO, but that's not
there's no decent story with there's no decent story with Cody and KO, man. You're going in and out real bad, Bill. Check.
Yeah, check. You are too.
Yeah, so, your connection's bad, man.
No, I'm fine here. You keep going out. But anyway.
No.
that
SK Nation, can you help out Bill Apter?
Dr. Chris Man, what is match that rocks your boat now?
Oh my goodness, Bill, man. Your connection is the people are saying that you're cutting out, Bill. That's what I'm saying. You keep saying that. I'm probably cutting out because you are, because your connection's bad. The people who are watching us right now are seeing a clear screen from me and seeing you cut out. That's all I'm trying to say.
I'm going to go out and I'm going to come right back in. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill.
I'm going to go out. I'm going to come right back in. This is weird because I usually never have connection issues.
Someone said you had a 2000.
Now you're totally pixelated.
Yeah. because you're pixelated.
Yeah, AOL, you have mail. I'm trying to get at.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. Let's address this super chat with Dez499, my guy. I nominate Bret Hart for the Apter Award. When Hogan left, he carried the company until the Attitude Era. He had good matches. Everyone he wrestled. I think that's a really good point too with Bret Hart for sure. Bret Hart was the excellence of execution from about 92 to about 90. From about 92 to about 96. I mean, he passed the torch over to Austin. Michaels, well, Michaels really so Hart passed it over to Michaels, and then Michaels passed it over to Austin. Now that's kind of really the 92 to about 96 was really Hart's run, main event run. And then he passed it over to Shawn Michaels in 1996 with that really, really good Iron Man match at WrestleMania. And then, of course, Shawn Michaels passed it over to Austin in 98 with him winning. We have Bill again.
Back, here we go. And it's funny, you were freezing and I looked fine here. But my question
so that's what happens when your connection's bad. Like, you might look good on your end. However, it's really, when it's grainy, it was like you were going in and out.
Okay. So what
do you think about Dez's super chat there?
Possibly. Bret Hart's a very good choice as well. So I've got 5 or 6 people at this point in mind, and I'm going to run it past the executives in Sportskeeda, and we'll see what we finalize on. So, Dr.
Nice.
Chris, before I was pixelated, you sure you didn't do that to me? But before I was pixelated, Dr. Chris, the fan, okay. Not to get deep psychological, the fan. See, to me, the Cody and KO match and the Gunther match were wrestling matches. When I was growing up watching pro wrestling, those matches would have fit perfectly in Jim Crockett Promotions. Perfectly. Isn't that the kind of stuff that you look for these days?
No. Because if you're saying that they will fit perfectly in JCP, perhaps, but at least there would be a good story behind it, though. Like, say for instance, like Rock and Roll versus Midnight Express. Like, when you're thinking of like JCP, like a good technical match, you're thinking like the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express, or the Rock and Roll Express versus Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, for instance. You know what I mean? Like, there's a good match for a JCP card. And
but as a fan, you're not thinking of storylines. As a young fan, I wanted to see 2 guys get in there, babyface and babyface.
I'm thinking of storylines. I'm thinking of storylines.
Yeah. Even when
you said you were, absolutely, yeah. I'm looking at, like, for me, when I was a kid, I was thinking about characters. All about characters to me. It's like reading a comic book. To me, wrestling is a comic book come to life. I don't care about wrestling matches. I don't care about catch can. Like, when I was when I was watching wrestling back in the day, there were jobbers, enhancement talent, whatever you want to call them. The crux of what I watched on television was all about making a wrestler look good in order to set them up for the pay-per-view. It was completely, the Road Warriors are coming in, this tag team, before the bell even rings. They come and ransack them, ambush them, completely obliterate them. They don't get one move on them. There's no 50-50 nothing. They tear them to shreds. Give, hey, here's $200. you're going to have to look, basically get obliterated by the Road Warriors. It's
you didn't suspend belief then.
I did, because it made the Road Warriors look like killers.
Yeah,
like I thought that they were legitimate, just killers. I thought that someone like a Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, I thought that they were like, man, they were so good wrestlers that no one could out wrestle them. So when you had like the Road Warriors versus Anderson and Blanchard, it's okay. Yes, you did have the killers, but Anderson and Blanchard during those, NWA, like Saturday night shows and things like that, they would have, Tully Blanchard would do his slingshot on the ropes, and they would, it was just finesse with their type of wrestling, that you would have power versus finesse, and it would bring a really interesting type of, two worlds collide, the power team versus the finesse team, which team would win. And that's because, and that wasn't saved until the pay-per-views. Now we're seeing pay-per-view stuff 50-50 all the time on Mondays. There's no story arcs. There's no emphasis on pushing people's characters up to make them feel. I want to
see a good wrestling match at times. And those two matches, to me, satisfied me. I wasn't caring about storylines, they were hold for hold. There was small storylines, but I liked what they did in the ring. It reminded me of the days when wrestling was about a match, who's going to beat who, and not generally a storyline. But then again, we come from two different backgrounds of growing up in different eras, where I go back to when I was growing up, where there were some storylines, but there was always 2 or 3 matches on a card that had no storyline. It was like, who could out wrestle the other guy? And those 2 matches, that's what it brought back to me.
That's great. I started watching wrestling probably around 85. And 63. So I know
1963.
Yes. I thought that, I was considering 1863, but hey, man, you still.
I shot Abraham Lincoln's first match.
You told me that. Yes, you have. And so, but I started watching tape, and I've been watching tape since 60s and 70s. I mean, I've been watching 60s and 70s wrestling with, I've watched hours and hours and hours of tape. And so my thing was television production. So the point, even watching 60s wrestling, it was still an element of making a star look big. It was still it was still very star focused. Even if you think of someone like Amula in the 60s, she ran through talent after talent after talent. And even if you think of someone like a Bruno in the 60s and things like that, because someone like a Bruno, he was the star of the show. So you would make heels bigger than life in order to come to Bruno, because this might be the time to the live audience that the foe actually might dethrone Bruno. Maybe this is, even when Hogan was champ for 4 years, you had Stud, you had Bundy, you had Andre, you had Earthquake.
It's all about the storyline. It's all about the storyline. I just said the opposite, where those 2 matches I enjoyed without great storylines. They just put on really good, classy wrestling matches.
Match quality to me is different. I mean, like,
that's where I'm going.
There's not very many bad matches. Like there's just across the board. It's like you can throw in, when Ricochet was in WWE, or Andrade or Carmelo, or like there's good wrestlers in the company, but that's the issue. Everybody's a solid wrestler. I mean, for the most part, like 90% of the people that we see every week on Raw are solid quality wrestlers. but that doesn't make anyone stand out though. If
Oh, no.
everybody's a solid quality wrestler, there's nobody to stand out. But in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, it wasn't necessarily wrestling heavy. It was more character heavy, and every character had a unique quality about them that made people hate you or love you. That's the quality of wrestling that I compare things to. So if I'm just watching a pay-per-view with good quality matches, that's not a JCP card to me because it doesn't really emphasize characters.
Well, I was there at JCP cards all the time, and they always had a few matches. Of course, they had storylines in the main events and all that, but they also had matches in the mid card with two guys. There was no feud or anything. It was just an applause wrestling match, and that's what those two matches did for me.
But Kevin Owens and so you just said 2 world title matches and compared them to 2 mid-card matches in JCP. That's what you just did.
I'm saying the wrestling quality. What I'm saying is that the wrestling quality was like a Jim Crockett card. You could take a Ric Flair and a Ricky Steamboat, that type of thing, a main event, and it was good wrestling. This was good wrestling.
Yeah, but the story arc between Steamboat and Flair was amazing.
I'm comparing stories. I'm comparing ring wrestling.
Yeah, but wrestling quality is a whole different, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I was looking at.
Like, say for instance, if I'm watching Chi-Town Rumble back in 1989. Or Wrestle War back in 1989, the series between Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. I'll say those are 2 of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. I think those are 2 of the best matches in the history of NWA. However, there was a bunch of other matches that are forgettable during that time. But what made me remember that? What made me remember that was Flair was such a good character. He was such the antithesis of Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat even brought his kid to the ring for that dynamic of good old boy, American boy, compared to Ric Flair being the ultimate villain. There was still a dynamic there with the character.
I got it. What I'm trying to make the point, and I know where you're going with this, is to me there were 2 very classy wrestling matches.
Right, you keep saying the same thing over again. Like that's I get that. I get that part. I get that there were. I don't disagree with that. I don't. You asked me the question though. So I don't disagree that there were 2 quality matches. That I don't disagree with. So the answer to the question that you asked me was, it doesn't cause me to be wowed to look at 2 classy matches. I'm not being wowed by that. You also asked me you also asked me a question of JCP. Would I be looking at that if I was comparing it to a JCP card? The answer is also no, because back in the day when I was looking at JCP, that's not what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at quality matches. I was looking at characters, and I think that one of the biggest reasons why we've lost the luster in pro wrestling so much is because that element has long gone, and the emphasis is wrestling matches, and that's caused the interest to fade, because there's good wrestling matches every week, all the time. So it's not it doesn't really distinguish anything.
Fading. It's bigger than it ever was.
Not from a popularity fan. Not from a popularity fan.
Anywhere you go in the world, people know WWE.
But people in the world knew WWE for decades. So what I'm saying is, popularity wise, you're 3 times less in ratings of pulling a rating on a weekly basis than you were 25 years ago. They were at the 6s and 7s. Saturday Night's Main Event back in the 80s got 8s on NBC.
Right,
over 8 million viewers on Saturday Night's Main Event. Yeah. Now you're struggling to crack 2 on the Monday night. So that's 4 times less viewership than you did 35 years ago. So
There's too
that's
much of it now. You can get it too
now,
easily. There's too much
yeah,
of it.
that's true. All right, so let's run through these super chats real quick.
Oh, I
By
love
the way,
I was in the mood for this tonight.
oh man, I love talking to you, man. You're my brother. I love this. This is all love and great conversation. All right, let's see here.
What do we got?
Well, let's see. Rollin, $5. What do you guys think carried the WWE into the Attitude Era? It obviously wasn't Hogan because McMahon felt that Hogan was getting sales, so Hogan left. What do you think, Bill?
Well, Stone Cold and McMahon. I mean, that was to me unquestionably that was the epitome of the Attitude Era. And The Rock, becoming The Rock, that whole piece, that whole thing. It changed wrestling, but I think McMahon and Stone Cold is what started it for me.
Sweet. All right.
Thank you, Roland. By the way, you're always in there with the super chat.
Of course. Speaking of that, another $5. So who did Hogan pass the torch to before he left the WWE in the 90s? People believe that Hogan didn't pass the torch until he wrestled The Rock at WrestleMania 18. He lost to Yoko. But
Ultimate Warrior?
No, not really. That was seemingly a torch passing moment, but that was that was WrestleMania 6, right? And then then Warrior lost it to Slaughter, and then Hogan beat Slaughter. So he really didn't. So he didn't really pass the torch. So I think Rollins getting somewhere here, man. As far as Hogan passing the torch, no, not passing the torch. Rollins, $2 more. Red Hart resents Hogan for not passing the torch. He was supposed to go over Hart, and then he backed out. I think, man, last minute.
Brett's resenting everything at this point. It's terrible. I love it. I love the guy. He's resenting everybody.
4 out of 10 is what he calls Goldberg, I believe. All right, my man.
That's it. Wait a minute. I had one other thing.
Roll,
you gonna watch the Netflix Vince McMahon docu-series? I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, should be pretty good, man.
Do you know? I think that because of what's going on with McMahon now, and I mentioned this on the Time Machine, is that now what's going on with McMahon with this whole scandal? It's like clickbait. People love this kind of stuff to go there. It's going to draw more people because of what's going on now.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but that's what people think.
That's the news for you, man. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Bill, let them know where to find you, my brother.
Right down there, on Twitter, X, at Apter One Wrestling, and of course, Time Machine right here on Wrestle Binge by Sportskeeda. And don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. It's a mini magazine. If you loved what I did in the magazines, you gotta get the newsletter. Go to just Google Sportskeeda newsletters, click on the wrestling newsletter, and every Wednesday you will get an exclusive newsletter written by me, Bob Smith, one of the old PWI editors, and a rant by Joe Lowry.
Very nice, Bill. You know what I love about this show, Bill? I love being the heel on this show. I love it. You know why? I love being a heel on this show because I'm very psychological. I love psychologically getting under people's skin, particularly the SK audience. I love it because Bill Apter is such this beloved figure. He's a national treasure. He's one of the best interviewers in the history of professional wrestling. He's my close personal friend.
Oh yes.
And so he's so beloved. And so when I when I play the heel in these moments, to me, it's just I'm talking to my brother. My brother and I are having a really good conversation about pro wrestling. But then you have people like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that he would say that to Bill Apter. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's hilarious, and it makes me love this show so much because so many people get butthurt over my heel comments.
Well, they do. Thank goodness the fan base that I have, when I've done other shows and people have said something wrong about me or whatever, my Apter chatters, there it is, the Apter chat, with your favorite guy in front of it. My Apter chatters come to my defense, and I love them for it.
They do, man. I love it. I love your support, Bill. I love it, man. I think it's well deserved, and I think it's great. But you know what, man? I'm a big boy. I'm a tough guy, so I don't mind playing a heel. If I'm the one getting the jeers,
change the song. He gets under my skin. He gets under my skin. Deep in the heart of me.
There you go. All right, so pancakes and power slams, ladies and gentlemen. I'm heading over there. I'm going to talk about more of the Odyssey Jones stuff, all the exclusive intel that I received. It's also on Twitter. I'm going to cover that more in depth and talk about that situation. Really interesting stuff regarding the release of Odyssey Jones. Real quick, Rollin, Bret Hart resents Hogan for not passing the torch. I just saw
more that. Resentful by Bret Hart.
Steve Austin didn't carry WWF before Attitude Era, he said.
No, Steve Austin found the Stone Cold character in that era that really made him go all the way. Yeah, that character. Indeed. Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here, Bill Apter.
That's me, and this is Dr. Chris Featherstone, who psychologically tries to get under my skin each and every Tuesday.
And I successfully do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is UnSKripted. Have a good night, everybody.
See you at the matches.
So long.